Right, hello and welcome to this masterclass where I'll be taking you through my 5 steps gentle sleep plan for mums returning to work. If we haven't met before, I know some of you already, but my name's Michelle and I'm really here to help you. There's going to be a lot of value shared over the next 60 minutes. I've packed a lot in, so hope you're ready to learn. Just a few housekeeping things. If you're just arriving now and you haven't introduced yourself in the chat yet, let me know in the chat box how old your child is and where you're from. I like my sessions to be quite interactive, so please be ready to respond to any questions in the chat box. We're going to spend 45 minutes or so going through the masterclass, and then I've got time at the end for a live Q&A. And yeah, one other thing in the masterclass, I do talk about my program, the Good Night Sleep System, which is starting again soon. It's not a sales pitch, but I will be telling you about it at the end because some people here I know want the opportunity to continue working with me. So, but don't worry, you'll be getting loads of value from the masterclass, and there's lots of practical tips and tools to go away and use. So let's get straight into the content, as I'm sure you're keen to make a start. So I hope you can see my slides. Please let me know if you can't see it. It's moved on to the next one. Let's get straight on. Which one of these sounds like you? Or perhaps you're all three. And I want you to put a 1, 2, or a 3 in the chat box. Are you number 1? Your baby wakes up every 1 or 2 hours. You're desperate for more sleep. They might be needing a feed every couple of hours to get back to sleep, or they might be latched on for a lot of the night. You don't mind a 1 or 2 wakes for a quick feed or a cuddle, but right now, that constant waking and feeding or contact sleep just feels unsustainable. Perhaps you're number 2, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're frustrated, you've tried everything, nothing's changing, you're second guessing yourself and you're wondering why nothing is working for your baby. Or perhaps you're number 3, you're feeling mentally, physically exhausted and you're anxious about coping at work. And if you're going back to work in the next 3 to 6 months, or you're already back at work, you're struggling because of lack of sleep. And if any of those are true, you're in the right place. I'm just going to the chat box now to see. Yeah, so lots of ones, quite a few threes, some saying all of them. Yeah. Okay, some have already gone back to work. Okay, lots of 1s and 3s and some all of them. Okay. So you're also in the right place if you're desperate for more sleep, but you're only looking for a truly gentle, responsive alternative to sleep training, because the strategies that tell you to ignore your baby's cry out, you just don't feel right for you. Or if you feel like you're doing it all, you're the only one who can settle your baby, you end up having to go to bed really early just to survive, and you can't remember the last time you had an evening with your partner. You might even be sleeping in separate beds or separate rooms. You've tried to figure it all out on your own. You've searched Google, you've looked at social media, and you're just feeling like you tried lots of different things, but nothing is changing. So I'm here to help you. And in today's masterclass, I'm going to show you exactly what you can do to start improving your sleep, your baby's sleep as well from today. It's not just theory or sleep science. It's a practical session, practical, gentle, actionable. You're going to walk away with some simple things that you can start doing straight away. So here's a little run through of what we're going to be covering. We've had our little welcome. Next, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and my journey with sleep and why I'm so passionate about helping families like yours. I can't cover everything about baby sleep in an hour, of course, but I will be going through 3 most common reasons for why parents get stuck when they're trying to improve sleep and what you can start doing differently. And then I'll show you my 5-step sleep success method, so you know exactly how to reduce night waking and start seeing real progress. And I'll also be sharing a few success stories from families who've been where you are now, so you can see what's possible. Towards the end, I'll explain how we can continue working together if that feels like the right next step for you. Absolutely no pressure. just an invitation to see if my approach feels like the kind of support you're looking for. And if you stay until the end, I'm here to answer your questions. And there's also a little special free gift as a thank you for joining me today. So, by the end, you'll understand reasons for why your baby is waking. You'll have some actionable steps to improve sleep and a clear plan to follow to reduce night waking, to start getting long stretches of sleep. So hopefully that feels good and you're up for doing these few things over the next hour. I thought we'd start with a little bit of an introduction. And I know some of you already, but if we haven't met before, um, I'm Michelle, I'm a qualified sleep coach. I run the Baby Sleep Experts for the past almost 6 years. I'm also a pharmacist, and as you'll probably find out today, I'm very passionate about helping parents who are returning to work get more sleep. And I love chocolate and tea, and I really hate coffee and olives. And this is my family, which is a few years ago now. We've got 3 boys, all football mad. So I spend a lot of my time on the side of the pitch watching them play or ferrying them to and from football training. And my interest in sleep started many years ago when I started my family, a little bit younger there. And this is a picture of my eldest boy on his first Christmas. And yes, I'm smiling here, but I was actually really struggling at that time. He was adorable, but he just wouldn't sleep. And he was a baby, never slept well right from birth. And I've always needed a lot of sleep. And that constant disruption through the night for me felt like torture. And after 9 months of broken nights, I hit a wall. And it was a Monday morning and I couldn't get out of bed. And I remember lying there thinking, I just can't do this anymore. Um, I was utterly exhausted physically, emotionally, mentally. My husband took him away for a couple of hours just to give me a break, but really what I wanted was just to escape and make it all go away. And these are some of the emotions that I was feeling at that time, and I wonder if you feel like this too. And I'd love you to put one of these words or your own words in the chat box to describe how you were feeling. I was constantly arguing with my husband. I was snappy. We often bickered about who was the most tired, which I know sounds just really stupid. We had no time together in the evenings, and I was feeling so tired. I'd just go to bed ridiculously early because I dreaded the night and I knew I would be up a lot in the night. And if you're feeling any of these, please know you're not alone. As mums, we put on a brave face, we tell everybody it's fine, but really it's really not fine. Um, I'm going over the chat box, looking for what you're putting. Dreading the nights, yes. Lacking patience and mum rage, yeah, I totally understand that. Can't make plans, totally. All of them angry and desperate, snappy. Yep, we're all similar. Guilty, lacking patience, yeah, anxious, foggy, um, despair, yeah, loads. Thank you for sharing that with us. Never off the clock, yeah. A lot of mums tell me they feel touched out. Okay, so turning point for me when I was preparing to go back to work as a pharmacist, and I was just feeling anxious, I was feeling worried, I was feeling angry that I was expected to function on so little sleep, and the thought of making a mistake at work really scared me, so I knew something had to change. And I wanted to be the best mum I could be for my little boy, but if I'm honest, I just was barely surviving. And the only advice I was given at that time was leave him to cry. And you might have experienced this too. And if you have, I'd love to know. Put a 2 in the chat box if you've ever been advised, leave your baby to cry on their own, and this is going to solve all your sleep issues. Yeah, lots of people. And it was true for me then. It's really sad that it's still true now, but it's understandable. in a lot of books, it's all over social media. It just seems to be the only option. Even the doctors suggest it. Um, but I knew it wasn't for me. And maybe that's why you're here. You're looking for an alternative way to improve your baby's sleep. Well, when I had my first baby back then, sleep coaches didn't really exist. And I really wish there had been someone I could have gone to for some help, someone who'd had a similar experience as me, but there wasn't. And so, as a pharmacist, I love all things science. So, I started my own research. I learned all I could about infant brain development, about science of sleep. I started to understand what normal baby sleep is like and ways to improve sleep without doing cry it out. And I was apprehensive that it would work. But when I started implementing a few changes, they did actually work. And I changed a number of different things, and I'll tell you more about this later, including timings of his naps and changed what we were doing around bedtime. Gradually, over a number of weeks, we started getting better sleep. Initially, he was waking a lot less, and we had some long stretches of sleep. And then after a couple of months, he did sleep for 8 hours in one go. And I wasn't sleeping, I was still checking he was okay. Um, but he was sleeping the majority of the time really well, unless he was ill, of course, which is understandable. Um, so, so when I started getting more sleep, everything started to change. I started feeling myself again. Actually enjoyed being a mum for the first time, wake up feeling rested instead of working out when I could nap in the day or how on earth I was going to make it to bedtime. My mood improved. I was snapping less. We had our evenings back. It meant we had an hour or two and as a couple in the evening, and I think that's what saved my marriage. I wouldn't say everything was perfect from then on, but I certainly felt as if I'd gone from surviving to thriving. The bedtimes and nights were much more predictable, and my husband could settle in at bedtime in the night. So it wasn't all on me anymore. And of course, he would occasionally wake up in the night, and I knew that was normal, but he was quick and easy to settle back down. And I had energy to play with him, energy to make plans for our family. The brain fog lifted. At work, I could think more clearly, and instead of doubting myself in my decisions, I felt much more less anxious, less overwhelmed. I felt more confident. And if I can make some changes like this, let me assure you, you can do the same. And I want you to have a plan by the end of this masterclass to move things forward and see these sorts of things. You do not need to keep struggling. The change in my life was so profound that many years later, I've changed my career so that I can help other parents like you in a similar situation turn your lives around. So I've retrained, I've completed the most comprehensive evidence-based sleep training there is available, and I work now as a holistic sleep coach. And over the past nearly 6 years, I've been helping families all over the world improve their sleep without sleep training. Um, so let me take you through the three key reasons why you'd be getting stuck when you're trying to change your little one's sleep. So, reason one is all around sleep expectations, and sometimes we just have an unrealistic expectation of how much sleep our little one actually needs. And this is totally understandable because it's actually quite a cultural thing. We're surrounded by this idea that babies should sleep 7 till 7 or that 12 hours overnight sleep is normal. But for most babies and toddlers who still nap, that is not realistic. And sleep needs vary hugely from child to child, just like they do for adults. Some of us need more sleep, some of us less. So we really need to understand what your baby needs, not what a chart or a routine says they should. So let me give you some context. And this is from National Sleep Foundation. For babies aged 4 to 11 months, they they need around 12 to 15 hours. That's in 24 hours. But actually, a full normal range is between 10 and 18 hours. And that means some babies are totally fine with 10 hours across the whole day. For toddlers aged 1 to 2, the recommended is 11 to 14. But again, the normal range is 9 to 16. So if you've got a child with low to average sleep need, they may not fit what society thinks is normal, and that's okay. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong or that their development is at risk. It just means their body needs less sleep than others. And let me show you this study, which looked at 90,000 children under 2 years. And they found, if you can see this, but their average overnight sleep was about 9.5 hours between 8 and 12 months. And that increased to around 11.3 hours at 18 months. Not necessarily sleep without all in one go, without any wakes, but that's how much sleep they're achieving at night. So if you hear people saying that their baby sleeps 12 hours straight at night, it's really not normal. And your child might just need less sleep than you expect. So let me ask you, is this a mindset shift that you need to make? Have you been assuming your baby should be sleeping longer than they actually need? And we always look at sleep over 24 hours, and we actually look at how many hours your child is in bed for at night. So have a think about it. Is it realistic? And this includes that time in the morning, when they've woken up at 5:30 and it feels like nighttime. Well, it is nighttime. And you've managed to get them back and you're dozing in bed. Or you've taken them, you brought them into your bed and you're just managing to get an extra half an hour or an hour or so. Have a look. How much time are they in bed for overnight? And this is one of the first things I look at when I'm looking at a sleep diary. Just looking at this can be a game changer. And that also starts to make other things fall into place too. And if you've got questions, save them till the end. I'm going to do questions at the end. So, reason number 2 is that babies are not robots. Every baby is unique. Every baby has different sleep needs. Every family situation is different. So let me ask you, have you found yourself doing any of these things? And if you have, you can let me know in the chat box with a yes or a no, or tell me what you've been doing. Asking friends or family for advice. Have you been scrolling in Facebook mum groups at 2 o'clock in the morning? Panic Googling or scrolling Instagram for sleep advice? And if you've been doing any of these things, we've all done it. ChatGPT, yeah. You're not alone. You're not alone. We've all done it. The problem is, most of the advice out there doesn't take into account your baby's individual needs. And a lot of what you see online is based on very generic routines. It's not your baby's biology. And sometimes it even goes against what we know how baby sleep actually works. And the truth is, what works for one baby may not work for another, because one of the biggest factors that affects sleep, and one that's often completely overlooked, is your baby's temperament. Perhaps your child's more sensitive. Perhaps they're a bit resistant to change, they're strong-willed, they're slightly higher needs or a lot higher needs. They could be termed as a Velcro baby, a FOMO baby. They just hate missing out on things. And if you don't take into account your baby's temperament, it makes change difficult. And any sleep plan, no matter how gentle it is likely to feel frustrating and ineffective. And that's why inside my Good Night Sleep system, I include a temperament toolkit. And it's the first thing we look at together before we make any other changes. It's so important to understand this. Yes, so a few strong-willed FOMO babies, crying out to mum friends for advice. Yes, we've all done it. Yeah, lots of people Googling for advice. Okay. Yeah, strong-willed. Most of the babies and children I work with, the parents tell me they're strong-willed. So the third reason for getting stuck is because sleep is a puzzle. Sleep is complex. It's influenced by lots of different things. It's rarely about fixing one thing, but it's more about looking at all the pieces. And when you've got all the pieces working well together, it solves the puzzle, your sleep starts falling into place. And what I see so often is that parents try and fix one piece of the puzzle, hoping it'll be a magic fix, but when it doesn't work, it's not because they've done anything wrong, it's just that there's other pieces that are still missing. And I find what happens is they enter this cycle of hope and despair. And I wonder if you can relate to this. Pop a yes in the chat if you can relate to this. Does it sound familiar to you? So you try something new, a new routine, a new bedtime, or whatever. Nothing changes, so you abandon that, you move on to trying the next thing, or something else happens. You try something and it works for one day, and then you try to replicate the exact same situation the next day, but it stops working. And then you start again. You start on the cycle again. And what happens is you're always in the cycle. And you end up wasting time, nothing's changing, you get frustrated, and you feel stuck in survival mode. Yes, lots of people feel like that. Um, and when you're in this place and you might be thinking, oh, it's never going to get better, or you start blaming yourself and you feel guilty, it's all your fault. Let me tell you, it's not. You wonder how long it's going to go on for and if you're ever going to get more sleep. But the thing is, there's so many aspects of sleep we need to consider. And this is why we need a holistic approach. It's not just about fixing naps or making bedtime earlier or later or having a bath or self-settling. It's about understanding how all the areas work together. Your baby's temperament, their routines, their environment, their feeding, their nervous system regulation. There's so much more to it. And that's why we need a holistic approach. When you bring all the pieces together, that's when the whole puzzle finally makes sense. So it's not a one size fits all approach with sleep. We need to be aware of all the different factors and then work out what works for your child's unique needs. And if you've done any research on sleep, it's likely it's made you more confused. And perhaps you're fed up of trying to find answers. Perhaps you're fed up of not getting results you want. Perhaps you're fed up of just waiting for it to improve by itself. That could be why you're watching this masterclass. You just want to find out what works. Well, you're in the right place. The thing that makes the biggest difference is following a plan that addresses all the pieces all together. I'm going to share this with you next. And this is called the sleep success method. And the 5 steps of the sleep success method are what I use with all my families. I work with my one-to-one families, as well as every family in the Goodnight Sleep system. So get your pens, your paper ready, as I'm going to take you through it right now. And each of these steps matter. And when you follow them in order, you can move from frequent night waking to long stretches of sleep. And in time, sleeping through. And this is why I love working as a sleep coach. I love helping mums be able to turn their situation around and make a big difference. I love seeing the difference in them when they start getting more sleep and they go through this process. So let's start with step 1. Set yourself up for success. As you know, parenting a baby or a young toddler is hard. It's hard anyway, but it's so much harder if you're not getting enough sleep. Throw going back to work into the mix and you could have a storm brewing. So how do you do this? Well, it's really important to understand what is normal. We've talked about this already. When it comes to baby sleeps, have realistic expectations. It's important you understand your baby's unique sleep needs, know how much sleep they need according to their age, whether they've got high sleep need, low sleep need, and what might be impacting their sleep in terms of their development. You also need to have a plan to follow, tailored to your child's needs and tailored to their temperament. Something that's step by step, so it feels manageable and it feels achievable. You need to be prepared with exhaustion and coping strategies for yourself. These are the backbone for everything else. And without these in place, you're not going to win at sleep coaching. If you're not in a good place emotionally and physically, it's almost impossible to implement change. So, parent well-being and sleep quality is really important. Let me give you an example. If we look at the link with co-regulation, if you're experiencing negative emotions, such as the ones we mentioned earlier, like frustration, anxiety, stress, when you're trying to get your child to sleep, they're all valid, they're all very normal emotions, but there's scientific evidence to say that it's going to affect your child's sleep. That's why supporting you as parents is just as important as supporting your child. And learning what helps you feel calm and grounded is a key part of helping your child feel calm and well regulated and ready for sleep. And in the Good Night Sleep system, I suggest a number of different strategies and tools for parents to do this. And when you've worked this out, you're in a much better place to start working on your child's sleep and you're going to be more successful. Remember, you can't do it all by yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. And so this is where parents sometimes get stuck. They might have unrealistic expectations. They're not following a plan. They're just trying one thing one week and another thing in another week. Or they're trying to do too many things all at the same time, and then we just can't tell what's working. Or they try something, but they don't stick it for long enough. Okay, so let's move on to step two, and that's looking for red flags. This is a common step to miss out when it comes to improving your child's sleep, but not all night waking is normal. It's rare, but there are certain conditions that always warrant some investigation. And I've got experience in spotting these signs and symptoms of red flags, knowing when something is normal or when something needs further investigation. I think my pharmacy background helps with this. Probably around 15 or 20% of families I work with have something underlying that's impacting sleep that they hadn't realised. And I always advise parents, trust your instincts. If you think there's something more going on, it's possible you're right. So, what am I talking about? Well, and this is not an exhaustive list, but any undiagnosed allergy or reflux, mouth breathing and snoring, unusual limb movements and restlessness. We don't have time to go through each of these right now, but please, if your child is waking very frequently and never sleeps in long stretches, it's worth looking at this. So, once we've ruled out red flags, you set yourself up for success, then you're in a good place to start work on your sleep foundations. And this is another step that's often skipped by many sleep coaches. They just skip straight to the sleep coaching techniques, but sleep foundations are the basics that your child needs in order to sleep well. And making these small adjustments to lots of areas connected to sleep can lead to more sleep for your family without changing how you're responding to your child in the night. And I go back to this slide because it's a big part of solving your child's sleep puzzle. We need to look at every aspect holistically. It's not just about putting up some blackout blinds or giving them a bath at bedtime. It's not about sleep hacks. So there's four parts of the sleep foundations you need to be aware of. We've got sleeping environment, your bedtime basics, your daytime basics, and your bedtime routine. And I dig deep into each of these in the Good Night Sleep system, and I've got simple checklists to make sure we've got everything covered, but I'm going to go through one of these now with you. And I'm going to go through bedtime routine because there's research that shows that having a solid, consistent bedtime routine works for your child is linked with better quality and longer sleep. So it's really worth getting this right. So back to the chat box. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being rubbish, 10 being absolutely amazing, I want you to tell me how well do you feel your routine, your bedtime routine is working for you and supporting your child's needs? What number, 1 to 10, 1 bad, 10 amazing, would you say? Uh, so we've got quite a variety tonight. 5, 8, 6, yep, 1, okay, threes, 9, oh good, nines. 5, 6s, 7, 8s, okay, another one, a few 5s, 4s, okay, quite a mix. So, and it might be you're thinking, oh, it's going really well. My child falls asleep really quickly. They go to sleep really easily. But actually, it's not always the case. And it could just mean that they were a bit past it or overtired, um, which can result in more waking at night. So it's a lot more than how easy they fall asleep. And let me go through some of the common mistakes I see parents make so you can have some ideas for how to make yours better. So it could be that they're too tired or not tired enough at bedtime. And when you've got the right amount of sleep pressure at bedtime, your bedtimes will feel calmer and easier. And your baby will be ready to fall asleep at bedtime and stay asleep. And it's partly about timings, but it's not just about how much sleep they've had in the day. It's also about how much exercise they've had, how much time outside they've had, how much stimulation they've had, how much sensory input they've had, how much opportunity they've had to move their body. So check they're actually tired at bedtime, or have they gone too far past their tired window? They've got a second wind and they're getting a bit dysregulated. Sometimes bedtime is just too calm, and actually, a child needs to release energy and have some extra sensory input before sleep. You also don't want your bedtime routine to be too short or too long. If it's too short, there just isn't enough time for connection and wind down. If it's too long, it just loses its focus. Sometimes it's lacking connection after separation, such as if you've been at nursery and work all day, you're exhausted when you get home and you need to make the dinner and tidy the kitchen and empty the dishwasher and change your clothes and run the bath, and all you want to do is collapse on the sofa, very normal. But sleep is a time of separation, and children don't like being separated. So, really boosting connection at this time can be a game changer. So, building in some activities for connection, especially when you've been apart all day. And often these small tweaks can make a big difference to your bedtime routine and how the rest of the night pans out. I just want to tell you about a family to encourage you. Heather and Greg, they had twins, Ruby and Jasper, 7 months, when they joined the program. They were having challenges with false starts and early waking and 8 to 10 wakes a night, and that was per baby. Um, After joining the program, they worked on their sleep foundations first. What we do first. One of the things they did was change up their bedtime routine. They had a much shorter routine. They added in some sensory activity. It worked really well for them. And in a couple of weeks, they were much easier to settle at bedtime. Those evening wakes improved quite naturally. Of course, they went through the rest of the program, and as you can see here, waking continued to improve. Initially, just waking once for a feed, and then they started sleeping through. We don't aim for sleeping through. It's normal for a child to still need you or need a feed at this age. But what often happens is when you get it all aligned, every part of the puzzle right, they might start sleeping through or only need one feed, for example. And Heather said, I think what surprised me the most about the results is that we were able to achieve all these things without the babies realizing anything had changed. We never once let them cry. The changes were so subtle and gradual, it didn't feel like a huge effort on our part. The program has given us our evenings back, and I'm enjoying the babies so much more. We're going to move on to step 4, which is all about sleep timings. Now, I'm not going to be telling you exactly what naps your baby needs or giving you a schedule to follow because every baby is different. In the Good Night Sleep system, I do include sample sleep routines for different ages as a rough guide, but it's important to recognise and understand your baby's individual needs and to create a predictable routine around that. So it's not about following strict schedules, certain must have a nap at a certain time for a certain length. It's more about working with your child's natural rhythm. And to understand sleep timing, it's important to understand sleep pressure, which is simple really. Sleep pressure is just your drive to fall asleep. So after a good night's sleep, your sleep pressure's low. When you're awake, sleep pressure's building, and when sleep pressure builds enough, the drive to fall asleep is overwhelming. And if you've ever seen a baby nod off whilst eating their lunch, that's high sleep pressure. Think of it like a kettle boiling. When the water isn't yet boiling, sleep pressure's too low, it's hard to fall asleep. When the water starts to boil and bubble, it's a perfect time for your child to feel tired, ready to sleep. When the water starts boiling really vigorously, you get lots of steam coming off, sleep pressure's probably gone too high, your child can become a bit dysregulated, it's going to be harder for them to get to sleep, and it can also result in more waking in the night as well. So it's important to look at sleep across 24 hours and making sure that the timings are age appropriate and they've got the right spread across the day. Because day sleep can affect night sleep and vice versa, it's really important to get this right. What I suggest you do is keep a diary for a few days. They're crucial to giving clues as to what's going on with your baby's sleep. And some of the things we were looking at in a diary include the timing of the naps, how they're spread across the day, how long they're awake for before bedtime, and how long it takes for them to fall asleep. When you understand how much sleep your baby needs over 24 hours and it's happening at the right times, if you just get this bit right, you'll be making progress. And having a predictable routine each day is really going to help your baby's circadian rhythm, which not only helps promote sleep around the same time each day, it also helps you plan your days, fit in your meal times, and just makes life a lot easier for you, especially when you're returning to work. And you might be thinking, how on earth can I do that? My baby does something different every day. Well, here's a big clue for you. The one thing that you do have control over is the time you start your day. This is how to start getting some predictability into your day. So choose a time that you're going to start your day and stick to it. And when you're choosing this time, bear in mind what we talked about earlier about how long your child actually needs to be in bed for overnight. And if you're heading back to work soon, you might like to think about what time you'll need to get up to leave for work or childcare. And then you build your predictable routine around this. So when it comes to sleep timings, this is where parents might get stuck. Sometimes they're following schedules that don't work for their baby. It's just hard to settle a baby, it's just not tired enough. Or you're not looking at sleep over 24 hours. Some parents just look at what happens in the night. Or there isn't a plan for when starting nursery or daycare. It's much better to have a proactive plan regarding your child's sleep rather than a knee-jerk reaction when the naps at daycare don't go to plan. And I can give you an example here. How this works in practice with Zelia and Jude. So they came to me when Jude was 14 months old. He'd recently dropped to one nap and he'd started waking every 1 or 2 hours through the night. Mum was back at work, really exhausted, and Jude had started at nursery. And so one of the first things we did was review the timing of the naps. And we agreed with nursery that they would let him have like a short power nap in the morning when they went out with the pushchairs, and then a longer nap after lunch. So 2 naps. And they also did the same routine when they weren't working, when he was at home. and it worked a lot better for him. Bedtimes became more enjoyable, less of a battle straight away. Um, and the night waking improved very quickly. And although we had other areas to work on, they were getting more sleep. They had their evenings back just by doing their sleep foundations and changing the naps and managing that sleep pressure I'm talking about. And you can see their journey here from frequent night waking to long stretches and then sleeping through. And for some families, just going through these first 4 steps can really help with sleep. And what usually happens is the false start stop, and your baby now starts sleeping in much longer stretches, and you get your evenings back, and it just feels a lot more manageable. However, for some babies, when you've got all your sleep foundations in place, no matter how much you tweak their routine, sleep doesn't change, it's not improving. And these babies are usually always needing the same support to get to sleep and back to sleep through the night. And this is when we move on to step 5. And that's about promoting simple sleep associations. And when it comes to supporting your child to sleep, absolutely nothing wrong with sleep associations, as long as they're working for you and your baby and you enjoying them. That being said, when a sleep association stops working, or it becomes unsustainable, it's absolutely okay to make a change. And a sleep association is essentially anything we equate with going to sleep or back to sleep. And we all have them. And too often for babies, we hear them referred to as sleep crutches or really negative things. And sleep associations are not bad habits, but the way children fall asleep is often the way they want to be settled back to sleep when they wake up in the night. So let's go back to the chat box. Let me know what your unsustainable sleep association is. What do you find yourself doing lots of times in the night to help your baby get back to sleep? And just while you're doing that, giving me your answers, I'll give you some examples of sleep associations. It could be rocking, feeding, walking up and down, jiggling. Let me go to the chat, putting the dummy back in, settling on us, feeding. Lots of people feeding. Breastfeeding is the most common one I see, but rocking is also, yes. Okay, holding, baby's settling in arms, getting heavy now, yes. Okay. Yeah, so some of the associations you can see here require a lot more parental input than others. So having sleep associations is a good thing, but this is about shifting towards more simple sleep associations that don't rely on so much input from us in the middle of the night. And it's just about simplifying how your baby gets to sleep. It gives them the best possible chance to be able to fall back to sleep when they wake in the night without a need. I'm not talking about night weaning here. So there's a few things here I want you to understand. We don't need to teach our baby to sleep. Sleep is a normal homeostatic function. It's not something you need to learn how to do. But babies will learn to fall asleep with particular associations that they become used to. And it's really difficult to let your newborn baby fall asleep when they're feeding, for example, and that's really normal. But when they get older, they're much more aware of their surroundings and what's happening when they fall asleep, and they develop preferences around that. The other thing to remember is nobody sleeps through the night. We all sleep in cycles. And it's really normal to have a brief moment of being awake when we transition between these sleep cycles. As an adult, you might wake, adjust your pillow, roll over, go straight back to sleep. Babies have these little brief wakings between sleep cycles too. And there's a lot of research that shows when babies wake up, they generally fall into one of two camps. So you've got self-soothers and you've got signalers. And I think it's really important for you to be aware of this because it's so easy to compare your baby with other babies, and actually you're comparing two different types of baby. So the self-soothers They wake briefly, and provided they've got no physical need, they might suck their finger or thumb a little bit, wriggle around, make a little noise, but then they go back to sleep. And they don't need so much help to get back to sleep. And these babies tend to sleep for consolidated stretches much quicker. They're able to sleep for longer between feeds. Then you've got signalers. They're not quite so able to fall back to sleep on their own. So they wake when they've got a physical need, but they're much more likely to need help going back to sleep in between all the other sleep cycles as well. And these babies can be slower to sleep for consolidated stretches. They find it harder to link their sleep cycles. You might find they're waking every 1 or 2 hours, and they do this for longer. So I want you to type a one if you think you've got a little one who is a self-soother, and a two if you think your little one is a signaler. Are you a one or a two? The odd one, but most people are a two. And yeah, I would imagine most people are here because they've got a signaler. Occasionally I see a one, but most people are signalers. Yeah, lots of signalers. These are the babies where they're much more aware of what's happening when they go to sleep. And this is where we can make a big difference to the night waking. We can't stop babies waking in the night. What we can do is help them get used to other ways of falling asleep or back to sleep without so much of our help when they're not waking without a need, with a need. It's just another piece of the puzzle of helping them be the best sleeper they can be. And let me just repeat, we are not talking about night weaning here. It's normal for babies, I would say at least until 12 months, to have a feed in the night. And when you simplify sleep associations, you'll find they don't need so much help to connect their sleep cycles. You start getting long stretches of sleep at night. Quite often the false starts usually go, you start getting your evenings back. And of course, when your child's falling asleep in their sleep space with a little bit of help from you, you haven't got that transfer as well of falling asleep in arms and then trying to lower them down without them waking. It also helps with early waking because it's so hard to get back to sleep in the early hours without your melatonin, without your high sleep pressure. And of the added benefits of this, so that when you go back to work, your partner can put your baby to bed if you've got to stay late for a meeting or whatever. And it just allows you the freedom to know, the confidence to know that your child will be okay falling asleep without you there every single time, and they can be resettled by others if it's necessary. And you might well be thinking, I've tried that and it doesn't work. And if I do anything differently, it all goes horribly wrong. Well, this is where I find people get stuck. The first thing is, don't know how to make this sort of change. This is my particular expertise. I've got lots of experience with helping parents change sleep associations that have become unsustainable. And my approach, which works every time, is to break it down into small, manageable steps. When it's broken down, you're more likely to be consistent with it. For example, in the Good Night Sleep system, there are up to 15 small steps that you can go through to go from feeding to sleep to going down in the cot awake, falling asleep with just a little bit of patting and shushing, for example. Not every parent goes through all of them, but they are there if you need it to be very gradual. Sometimes there's a fear of changing what works and you're worried it could make things even worse. But remember, it's your choice how you support your child to sleep. Trust yourself to know what works best for your family, what feels right for you. And remember, being ready for a change doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. Not being consistent. If you're always chopping and changing, it means it's confusing for your child and frustrating, and it's very difficult to make progress. And no preparation. You can't just decide one day, right, I'm going to stop feeding tonight and I'm going to stop rocking to sleep. You've got to set yourself up to win first. So in the program, I help parents prepare themselves for this type of change and what to have in place to make it easier and ensure you're going to have success following the process. And let me just tell you about Rebecca and Serena. Serena was a baby always fed to sleep, difficult to transfer into the cot, so they would bed share. And she woke every 1 or 2 hours needing feeds to get back to sleep every time, and then was often latched for the rest of the night. And it wasn't sustainable. Mum was back at work as a teacher, and her husband wasn't able to help with any of the settling overnight. And she'd tried to stop feeding Serena to sleep, but Serena was very strong-willed and having none of that. Um, Mum told me she did not want Serena to cry. So when they joined the program, they went through the 5 steps I've just talked about. Within 3 weeks, Serena was no longer fed to sleep. She would fall asleep in her cot, and she now sleeps all night with very few wake ups. And Rebecca said, we used very gentle methods. We're able to go at a pace which best suited our needs. The program clearly identified how little tweaks can make a big difference. It's great to finally be able to enjoy the evenings, and I'm coping so much better with going to work. So, I've taken you through the 5 steps of the sleep success method that you need to go through in order to get these long stretches and more settled nights. But I want you to think of it like building a house. You've got to have the right foundations in place first. If you try and implement a sleep coaching technique, but you haven't got the right foundations, it's going to fall apart. You won't be successful. You need the right sleep associations, the best sleep timings, good sleep foundations to have ruled out any underlying issues or red flags, and have set yourself up with ways of coping and realistic expectations in the first place. And if you skip any of the steps, it makes sleep harder and a lot more stressful. So now you know the steps you need to go through to start improving your little one's sleep. Can you commit to following a plan? And if you can make a huge difference to your family's sleep. And my question to you is, what difference would getting a good night's sleep make to you? And I want you to imagine life 4 to 6 weeks from now. And what does that thriving look like for you? How would it feel if you were able to sit down with your partner in an evening and have some me time, or to chill out and watch TV? And if you'd like to, put in the chat what you'd do with a whole evening to yourself. You had 2 or 3 hours to yourself in the evening. What would you be up to? Whilst you're doing that, I'll carry on. It might be when the alarm goes off at 6 o'clock, you actually feel rested, you're ready to start your day because you haven't been up every hour through the night. Or how would it feel to no longer have brain fog, but instead you can think clearly and you're on it at work and you're successful at your job because you're not feeling completely exhausted the whole time? Or you no longer feel like you're wasting the rest of your maternity leave. You've got energy to enjoy your little one and play together instead of always thinking about sleep and wake windows. And you actually enjoy being a parent. What's everyone said? Read a book, watch a bit of TV, reply to messages. Okay. Oh, netball, that sounds good. Yeah, exercise is often a popular one with parents. Complete a film, yes. Have a long bath, amazing. Stop crying. Oh, yeah, that sounds tough, Candice. Yeah, more patience, cooking, cleaning. Oh, not just cooking and cleaning. Yeah, absolutely. Have a bit more energy. Evenings, yeah. A bath and a face mask, amazing. Okay, so if you take one thing away from this whole masterclass, I want you to know that when you've got a proven plan to follow, you stop guessing, you stop trying all the things, wondering where it's going wrong. You can reach your sleep goals and start having settled nights in a way that feels good. So you now have a choice to make. I know there's lots of people here who are struggling with frequent night waking and are wanting support to get it fixed. So if you resonate with me, what I've said, and you want to take some next steps, let me share with you what that might look like. And here is my solution for you. It's called the Good Night Sleep System. You've heard me talk about it already, but it's not for everybody. And it's not for you if you're looking for a quick overnight fix. This is not sleep training. It's not for you if you don't feel ready to commit to a step-by-step plan. And this program is only for babies 5 to 24 months. So let me show you how it works. Um, so I've had so many parents ask me, how do I get long stretches of sleep and more independent sleep without leaving my child to cry? So I've carefully designed this program to show you how and to support you to make it happen. So the Good Night Sleep System is a complete expansion of what we've looked at in this masterclass today. I literally take you through these steps in a lot more detail, of course, and be showing you what you need to change, what action steps to take, and applying it to your child's sleep needs, your child's unique needs, your child's temperament, and your family situation so that we solve your child's sleep puzzle together. So the Good Night Sleep System has three parts to it. You have immediate access to the course to go through at your own pace. It's easy to follow, it's bite-sized videos, it's all based on science and evidence, and it breaks it all down so it feels manageable and achievable. I'm not going to go into details of all the 6 modules included, but you can check this all out on my website if you want to. It's got everything you need. And I support you for 6 weeks. And this is the most important bit. It's all very well having a sleep plan, but you actually need to put it into action. And I realised after working with lots of families in lots of different ways, it's the support that makes the biggest difference to whether a family has success or not. And in the programme, you've got support from me at drop-in sleep clinics on Zoom. And for the families joining this group, which is starting in February, I put on extra sessions so you can come to 1 or 2 every week. And you get direct access to me to ask your questions where I tailor the course to you and your child. They're not large groups. I like to get to know each mum individually. So every call, you have the opportunity to talk to me and I coach you directly. And you've also got access to my private Facebook group where I answer questions every day. It's a safe place, it's non-judgmental space. So you've got support day to day. It's not a generic one-size-fits-all type of thing. It takes into account your child's needs, your child's unique needs. You've got my support for 6 weeks whilst you make changes to make sure that you're progressing and seeing success. It's really important to me. Every family sees transformation. It's all based on my gentle, responsive approach. You're not going to be told to leave your child to cry ever. And then you've got this small community, a little group of mums all going through the same thing together. And these are the things, the changes which are possible. Through the program, you can change unsustainable sleep associations. You can go from frequent night waking to long stretches. There's advice for going from co-sleeping to cot sleeping. There's a whole lesson on introducing others to settle. You can change location of naps, and it's all working towards more independent sleep. And these are all wins from the program. These are all families who have started off with frequent night waking, most of them breastfeeding on and off all night long. So you can see here, one wake up last night, slept 8 hours straight, no false starts, taking a nap in the buggy after 9 months of refusing, 5 days straight of not being fed to sleep for the first time in his life. So I think there's another page actually. Yeah. These are, again, everybody's gone through the program, slept from 8:40 till 6:05 this morning. So yeah, these are all the results. So we start 2nd of Feb. And there's 2 options for joining. You can join the 6-week program, which is 269, or there's a limited number of fast track options, which includes the sleep analysis. So I look through your sleep diary and questionnaire right at the start. We have a one-to-one session together and you have a personalised sleep plan to kick you off. And the fast track is 369. So the doors close on Friday, 30th of Jan, so we can then start the following week. And there we go, doors close. And if you know you're ready to get started, you want to stop guessing, you just want to know, get on and make a start. Um, if you sign up before Sunday, so that's this Sunday, you're going to get an extra 2 weeks of support at the end. So 8 weeks instead of 6 weeks for anyone joining before midnight this Sunday. So you'll receive an email with a link to sign up. It should have arrived a few minutes ago, I should imagine. So check your junk mail if you can't see it. But I'm really looking forward to working with a small group of mums and seeing you transform your little one's sleep. There's a love it or leave it guarantee. If you don't love it within the first 7 days, you can tell me and you can have a refund. And there's going to be some free bonus sessions coming up. So the first one is tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I'm going to be doing a live that will be on Instagram because it's all about changing sleep associations. Some parents really struggle with this bit because their strong-willed baby just completely protests anything. So it's going to be a focus session to learn some practical tools and some strategies for how to succeed at this. And I'm going to run 2 drop-in Q&A sessions next week for anybody. If you've got a question, come along Monday or Wednesday for those. Again, I'll send out the links to remind you of those. So, quick summary. This program is for you if you're done with the guessing, the waiting, and you're not prepared to leave your baby to cry. You're ready to take action and support your baby to sleep more independently with results that are going to last. And you're looking for a simple step-by-step plan that works and that's going to be tailored to your baby's temperament.